Now that we created our first triple, it is time to create our first complete graph, consisting of numerous triples that connect with each other. In this regard, you will learn a very important feature in RDF called namespaces. I recommend to create a new folder where all the resources that will be created for our movie-based project will be stored. In this folder, you can start Visual Studio Code. When you opened Visual Studio Code in your folder, create a new file. Name this file as you like. However, I recommend to name the file data.ttl. The important part is to use the suffix .dtl. This indicates that this is a turtle file. With the turtle file opened in VS Code, let's start to recreate our first triple from the previous lesson. Kingdom of Heaven has actor Orlando Bloom. Thereby, we use the same URIs as in the last lesson. So for the subject, we use https mymovies.com/data #Kingdom of Heaven. For the predicate, https mymovies.com concepts as actor. And for the object, https mymovies.com data Orlando Bloom. And we finish the statement with a dot. I know what you must have been thinking. Do we really have to write the full URI for every resource we add? And to be honest, the full URIs are not only hard to write, they are also difficult to understand for humans. To solve this problem, RDF supports the mapping of prefixes to namespaces. A namespace is a mechanism used to group identifiers for RDF resources. The primary purpose of a namespace in RDF is to provide a context or a scope for the names used in an RDF document. To make RDF documents more readable and to avoid repeating long URIs, namespaces are usually associated with prefixes. So let's create our first prefix and map it to a namespace. We do this by writing add prefix and then we write the name of the prefix. In this case, I recommend using data and then we map the namespace to it. So https mymovies.com data and the hashtag. And in the end, we write a dot. With this mapping of a prefix named data to a namespace, we can then replace this long URI, which relates to Kingdom of Heaven, with the prefix and then the fragment. So data Kingdom of Heaven. The same applies to our object. So data Orlando Bloom. For our predicate, we use a different prefix. Since the namespace, the schema and path before the fragment as actor are different. I recommend for this example the prefix concepts. And don't forget the dot. Now we can exchange our predicate with the long URI with concepts as actor. Now that we have mapped the namespaces to prefixes, it is easier to add multiple triples. Let's add, for example, the fact that Orlando Bloom is from the UK. So we write data Orlando Bloom concepts because we want to use the namespace for concepts for every predicate we use. And here we write is from, and then as data we write UK and the dot. We also add the fact that Orlando Bloom has an occupation actor. Data Orlando Bloom concepts as occupation. In this case, I add actor also to the concepts namespace. So I write concepts actor. An important thing that I always use in practice is the separation of individual things and general concepts. Named persons or things like Orlando Bloom or the movie Kingdom of Heaven are concrete data. They belong to a different group than general things like having an occupation or the concept of an actor. Actor has no specific name. For this reason, let's classify this object as concept. I will go in detail to this in later lessons, but for now it is good to maintain this practice to prevent bad habits for the future. Let's save this. Go to File and Save, or just press Ctrl and S, and then we can upload this turtle file to our GraphDB triple store. So in case you forgot, just open the GraphDB desktop application and then click on the button Open GraphDB Workbench to go to the GraphDB user interface and import the RDF turtle file. In the GraphDB Workbench user interface, you can see your active repository, which should be MovieBase. Click on Import RDF data and then click on Upload RDF files. Then choose the folder where your turtle file is stored and open it. Then import it. Similar to the text snippet we added last time, you need to assign a graph to this RDF data that should be imported. Let's add the RDF data to the same graph that we used for our text snippet from the last lesson. So https movies.com data and click on import. Then you should see that the data turtle has been imported successfully in less than a second. Let's have a look at the data that have been added. Click on Graphs Overview, mymovies.com data, and you can see now that some more triples have been added to the graph database. For example, click on Orlando Bloom. Then you can also visualize it. And you can see that more connections have been added to Orlando Bloom. In the end, I have a challenge for you. Remember the last challenge where you had to define multiple triples based on a sentence I gave you? Now you have to define these triples in your turtle file and upload it to the GraphDB triple store. Pause the video now and try to solve the challenge. After you solved it, you can continue the video to see my solution. Okay, I will now show you how the solution to the challenge should look like. Don't be discouraged if you somehow use the concept namespace instead of the data namespace and vice versa. In the end, the goal of the challenge is the correct application of namespaces and the creation of triples. The distinction between data and concepts is reserved for a later lesson. Let's assign the role of Balian to Orlando Bloom. So, Orlando Bloom is acting or acts as Balian. Don't forget the dot at the end. And Balian, on the other hand, has an occupation. And as I mentioned, every predicate is grouped under the concepts namespace. So has occupation is grouped under concepts. And also generic terms or things that are not very specific, like a job description, like blacksmith, should also be grouped as concepts. Kingdom of Heaven is a movie. And the movie is also very generic, not specific. Therefore, it is a concept. And Kingdom of Heaven also has a role to offer. And this role is very specific. Therefore, it is grouped as data. This role is Boolean. When you are finished with writing the triples in the turtle file, save the file and we can upload it to our GraphDB triple store. In the starting screen of your GraphDB workbench, go to the active repository, which should be MovieBase. There you should find the Import RDF Data button. As an alternative, go to Import. This time we choose the first option, Upload RDF files. Then choose your turtle file, which in this case is named data. And this data turtle will be imported. So click on Import. Then you define to which graph this import should be assigned. In this case, it will be, as always, the named graph https mymovies.com data. Click on Import. And if everything went right, the data turtle should be imported successfully in less than a second to your graph database. Let's look at the result. Choose the graph https mymovies.com data, and you should see that multiple triples have been generated. Well, let's click on some triple like Orlando Bloom. You can see that the visual graph can be visualized. When you click on Kingdom of Heaven, you see that this graph is extending more and more. If you want to learn more about ontologies, linked data, and the semantic web in general, I can highly recommend my Udemy course. There you will not only learn all the basics about RDF, but also about the query language SPARQL, automated inference of new information using reasoning, and developing your own ontology-based apps. You can find the link to the course in the video description.